We continue our coverage of the VAT hike reversal. The EFF is calling for the Finance Minister to resign, as the party says the minister's decision to hike VAT was misguided, ill-conceived and reckless. EFF senior researcher Gumani Tshimomola joins me from for the party's reaction. A very good afternoon to you, Gumani. Thanks very much for your time. I really appreciate it. But the Finance Minister actually did what every Finance Minister usually does, which is to table before Parliament proposals that the legislature can say yay or nay to.
No, absolutely, Vuyo, and good evening to you and the viewers at home of Newsroom, and thank you for the invitation. I agree with you. At least there's something that we are beginning to appreciate as the South African public, but also for the members of Parliament. So the Minister of Finance tables proposals to Parliament, both the National Assembly and the National Council of Provinces. And ultimately, the decision to pass the budget instrument in the form of the Division of Revenue Bill and the Appropriation Bill rest with Parliament, members of Parliament who are elected by the voters. So what is important here is that when the minister tables the Appropriation Bill and the Division of Revenue Bill based on the fiscal framework and revenue proposals, as the EFF, we were very clear from the beginning to say, firstly, this budget does not deal with growth, it does not deal with job, but particularly it does not appreciate the level of crisis we're dealing with. And we made concrete proposals, both in Parliament, to the Minister and to the African National Congress, to say there is room here to could appreciate the crisis we're facing as a nation, and we should amend this budget to take into account these proposals which we have tabled here. But ultimately, even these engagements, the way they work out is that what we have seen recently is the Minister of Finance and the ANC have steamrolled this process in Parliament, disregard all the proposals that were made, despite clear evidence, both empirical and otherwise, to say that this budget is not good for South Africa.
But of course, with the court not having pronounced on the matter, the jury is still out as to whether, in fact, what you are alleging has indeed been proven to be true.
Look, as things stand now, on the 24th of April, I can tell you now that South Africa does not have a budget. The Minister of Finance is supposed to table a budget before the 31st of March, which is in the PFMA Section 27. So this is the third budget that the minister is going to bring to Parliament. The first one in Feb failed. The second budget in March was considered, tabled, and it went to the committees. When he wrote that statement in the middle of the night, when we were all sleeping, to say that he's going to write to the Speaker to withdraw the Appropriation Bill and the Division of Revenue Bill, effectively, the minister was conceding that he has not presented a budget before the National Assembly, which then brings different questions to the matters of legality, which we have taken to the Western Cape High Court. And those cases, both the EFF and the DA cases, have multiple parts in them. And from the indication of the DA this afternoon, they say they are not leaving the court case. As the EFF, we have also indicated that there are issues which need legal clarification, which we are not going to leave. But as things stand now, there is clear indication that there is no budget that is before Parliament. When we had the National Assembly Programming Committee this morning, chaired by Chair of Chairs, Honorable Frolik, he did make a concession by reading the statement from the Speaker, because he was not present as the chair of that committee, to say that the minister has indeed returned to the National Assembly through the Speaker and is going to withdraw the Appropriation and the Division of Revenue Bill. The minister was just short of saying, I'm admitting that as far as things are concerned, I have not tabled the budget. So what must be clear, Vuyo, is that as things stand, the minister is not only scrapping the VAT, that ill-conceived 0.5 percentage point increase. The minister, by withdrawing the Appropriation Bill and withdrawing the Division of Revenue Bill, which have not been adopted by both committees that must adopt them, it means that South Africa does not have a budget. And you don't have a budget even after the stipulated timeline in the PFMA. So it means we're in seriously uncharted waters here where the minister is failing to table the budget the first, second, and now the third time. If the budget that is going to rework is dependent on going to the expenditure side and removing 75 billion to try and balance the budget in an attempt to continue with what they consider a fiscal anchors dependent on having some surplus based on what they collect and how much they allocate, in trying to have a sellable pamphlet to the bond markets, I can tell you now, there's going to be even more crime, disaster, and even a much more sooner crisis than we've been calculating with our modeling in the past.
But can we really be too technical about this and artificially separate what the minister has just done from everything that has been happening over the past a couple of months, precisely because we are on uncharted waters here, where everyone, you know, is saying what they have to say, but also are trying or doing from their vantage points whatever they think is right or is in the interests of the country.
Look, be that as it may, it's neither here nor there, but the bottom line is that we have mentioned this before, that Parliament, by its very nature, it's very statute-based. Whatever you do in Parliament has to be either based on the rule, based on a legislation. You are guided by that. You don't just wake up and decide to introduce a budget as the minister. You are told that you must introduce the budget before the end of the financial year, which is March. Now, let's separate matters. You can have a meeting in Santen where you have a group of individuals who are in some form starting to learn how the money bills amendment procedure work, and we can forgive them for that. It's not our problem. What is happening outside Parliament, in hotels, in engagements that have press conference, that's a different matter. Let's try and be disciplined, at least to clear the waters that are being muddied here, to remind South Africans that only Parliament, where there are 400 elected public representatives, is the rightful place where a budget is tabled, a budget is discussed, considered, and if there are any recommendation, amendments, and acceptance of those budget instruments, is by a vote, like they did before when they voted a report which was not adopted procedurally, and then we take that matter to court. So we have to separate these matters. Let's not entangle Parliament workings, which are based on rules and legislation, with what's happening outside there, which we don't even know what was the agenda, who opened the meeting, if the resolutions were drafted, because it seems like some of those people who are speaking at some of these press conferences, they themselves have never seen the money bills, let alone the details and nuances which requires this level of discipline. And hence we're now clear in our statement to say there is nothing that both the minister and the DG are going to table before this nation, which will say, yeah, confidently, we're going to resolve the crisis of growth, we're going to resolve the crisis of jobs. And that's where we come from. Very disciplined, we're following the law. We raise these issues both in committees, both in the House. We follow up with letters. And when we table our papers before judges, you can hear yourself, even when you were not in those meetings, that there's logic, there's rationality, and the conduct of the speaker, the conduct of the minister, deceitful as it is, the conduct of the chairperson was out of order. We need a budget that is clear, it's introduced properly, it has growth, it has jobs. And this minister that is currently in Washington now, or New York, or wherever in America, addressing the IMF, is not going to give us that report, let alone the DG of Treasury, who I don't know why he even thought that, given the crisis that we have, the standard of living, the price of petrol, the price of food, he can still come and impose a 0.5% increase on a VAT that was introduced in 2018 as a temporary measure. That was shocking for us.
But I mean, does the minister not address the issue in the letter to to Parliament and laying out what it is that he will be doing, including, I mean, the withdrawal, as well as to be accompanied by introducing the rates and monetary amounts and amendment of revenue bill, the rates bill, that is, without this time, of course, the VAT hike. So he has laid it, he has put it out there what it is that he'll be doing next, which will or is going to conform with legislative provisions.
Yeah, no, look, I saw there's some piece of paper that is circulating in the media. That's a PR exercise. That's ministers' issues. It has nothing to do with Parliament. we're engaging internally between the national chairperson of the EFF, who's also the parliamentary chief whip, and the officials who are drafting a letter which we're going to send to the speaker now to demand that all the letters and the correspondence she got from the Minister of Finance must be publicly available for everyone to see. What is it that the minister is requesting from the National Assembly? Because so far we've not seen anything. That's the first thing. But the second thing is that midnight statement that everyone had to depend on to then have to make up their mind as to whether they were going to have VAT on the 1st of May or not. It does not say which statutes in Parliament the minister is empowered to use to then go and withdraw these things. As much as we note and welcome that there's withdrawal of this, because no one wants VAT, no one wants a budget that does not speak about growth and jobs. We still have to follow the law so that tomorrow, when there's a new budget that is tabled, be it as the new minister or someone else or the current minister, we know that we are following the law properly. And we can then go back to the Standing Committee on Finance and Standing Committee on Appropriation and engage those budgets. And this time around, I don't think there will be room to mislead each other, because even those comrades from other parties will make an effort to take all those pamphlets which we've put together so that they're educational, not only for members of the EFF, but also in Parliament, so that we're all on the same page from the beginning of the process until we finish. Because some of these things were problematic at the beginning when chairperson of these committees did not want to listen. Otherwise, we would have processed this budget differently. With those who have majority in the National Assembly and the National Council of Provinces taking a decision supported by majority of members of these both houses. That's the problem we're dealing with here. So we just need to be clear in terms of which legislation are we playing with, what are the parameters where all of us can go and amend this thing. And I don't think there's anyone in their right mind who will object to the Minister of Finance withdrawing that ill-conceived fiscal framework in the first place. I think that's where we're at the moment.
Gumani Tshimomola, thank you very much for your time this afternoon.